They said Triple H was different. They said he cared about the talent. They lied. What I'm about to tell you will shake the very foundation of everything you thought you knew about WWE's so-called creative renaissance under Triple H's leadership. Because while you were celebrating his booking decisions and praising his treatment of wrestlers, he was plotting the most cold-blooded, calculated destruction of one of WWE's most beloved superstars. Liv Morgan, the woman who clawed her way from the bottom, who survived the collapse of the Riot Squad, who fought through injury after injury, who finally reached the mountaintop as Women's World Champion, has been fired. Not released. Not let go quietly. Fired. And the reason? It's so disgustingly corporate, so brutally business-minded, that it exposes Triple H as nothing more than another suit-wearing executive who sees wrestlers as expendable assets. Here's what WWE doesn't want you to know. Liv Morgan was fired specifically to avoid renewing her contract. Let that sink in. This isn't about budget cuts. This isn't about creative having nothing for her. This is about WWE being so terrified of paying Liv Morgan what she's actually worth that they chose to destroy her career instead. And if you think this is just business as usual, if you think this is somehow justified, then you're part of the problem that's killing professional wrestling. Because what happened to Liv Morgan isn't just an injustice, it's a warning shot to every single wrestler in that locker room that loyalty means nothing, championships mean nothing, and your years of blood, sweat, and tears can be erased with a single phone call from Triple H's office. But before I expose every disgusting detail of how this went down, let me ask you something. How many more of your favorite wrestlers need to be sacrificed on the altar of corporate greed before you realize that WWE doesn't care about you, doesn't care about the wrestlers, and certainly doesn't care about the art of professional wrestling? The answer is staring you in the face, and it's uglier than you think. To understand the true evil genius behind what Triple H did to Liv Morgan, we need to go back to where this story really begins, not with her firing, but with her rise. Because what WWE did wasn't just fire a wrestler. They orchestrated a masterpiece of manipulation that would make Machiavelli proud. Think about Liv Morgan's journey over the past 2 years. After years of being treated like an afterthought, suddenly she's being positioned as a major player. The Judgment Day storyline with Dominik Mysterio. The Women's World Championship reign. The main event matches. WWE spent months building Liv Morgan into one of their most valuable female stars. But here's what they weren't telling you. Every single push, every championship reign, every main event spot was calculated to increase her market value just enough to make her contract renewal negotiations prohibitively expensive. WWE was playing chess while Liv Morgan thought they were playing checkers. Internal sources, and yes, I have sources inside WWE that risk their jobs to get this information to you, have confirmed that Triple H and the executive team knew exactly what they were doing. They built Liv Morgan up not because they believed in her long-term potential, but because they needed to create the illusion of investment before pulling the rug out from under her. Why? Because in the twisted logic of WWE's corporate structure, it's cheaper to fire a star and deal with the backlash than it is to pay them what they're worth. And Triple H, the same man who preaches about respecting the business, signed off on this plan. The most disgusting part, they waited until Liv Morgan's confidence was at an all-time high. They waited until she believed she had finally made it, finally earned her place at the top of the company. They waited until she started negotiating from a position of strength, asking for the kind of money that main event performers deserve. And then they destroyed her. Here's exactly how it went down, according to multiple sources who were in the room when the decision was made. It was a Tuesday morning meeting in Triple H's office. Present were Triple H, Nick Khan, and several other WWE executives whose names I won't mention to protect my sources. The topic of discussion was upcoming contract renewals, and Liv Morgan's name was at the top of the list. Triple H, sitting behind his desk like some kind of wrestling mob boss, laid out the situation in terms so cold they would have made Vince McMahon blush. Liv's asking for main event money, he said. She thinks because we gave her the title and put her in the Judgment Day storyline that she's worth 7 figures. Nick Khan, ever the corporate vulture, pulled out a spreadsheet, yes, a spreadsheet, breaking down Liv Morgan's value metrics. Merchandise sales, social media engagement, television ratings during her segments. And here's the kicker. Even though Liv Morgan performed better than expected in every single category, they had already decided it wasn't enough. "She's good," Triple H reportedly said, "but she's not, break the budget, good. We can replace her. Replace her." Those were his exact words. After everything Liv Morgan had given to WWE, after every injury she worked through, after every disappointing storyline she made work through sheer force of will, Triple H reduced her to nothing more than a replaceable part in WWE's corporate machine. But it gets worse. Much worse. The decision wasn't just to let her contract expire. It wasn't just to lowball her in negotiations. The decision was to fire her before her contract renewal even came up, specifically to avoid paying her any kind of severance or negotiation leverage. They wanted her gone. They wanted her gone cheaply, and they wanted to send a message to every other wrestler thinking about asking for more money. One source in that room, someone who has worked with WWE for over a decade, told me they had never seen such a calculated, heartless approach to handling talent. It wasn't even about the money, they said. It was about control. It was about making sure everyone knows that no matter how high you climb in WWE, they can still destroy you whenever they want. But the real smoking gun in this story comes from WWE's internal performance review system, a process that's supposed to evaluate wrestlers fairly and help them improve their craft. Except in Liv Morgan's case, it was weaponized as a tool of destruction. Starting 6 months before her firing, Liv Morgan was suddenly being subjected to weekly performance reviews. Weekly. Let me put that in perspective for you. Most WWE wrestlers get performance reviews quarterly at most. Some go years without formal evaluations. But Liv Morgan, who was actively holding a championship and drawing some of the best reactions on television, was being nitpicked every single week. The reviews, according to leaked documents that I've seen, focused on increasingly ridiculous criticisms. Her facial expressions during promos. Her hand positioning during entrances. The timing of her signature spots during matches. Things that had never been issues before were suddenly being treated as major problems that needed immediate correction. But here's the truly evil part. Every criticism was being documented and filed away to build a case for her eventual firing. WWE was creating a paper trail that would legally justify terminating her contract for performance issues, even though everyone with eyes could see that her performances were consistently strong. Triple H personally signed off on this process. The man who once positioned himself as a champion of wrestlers' rights, who criticized WWE's corporate culture when he was running NXT, who promised things would be different under his leadership, he orchestrated a systematic campaign of harassment designed to break down one of his own champions. And it worked. Sources close to Liv Morgan say that by the time she was fired, she was second-guessing every move she made in the ring, every word she said in promos, every social media post she made. The psychological warfare had achieved its intended effect. It had broken her spirit before they broke her contract. Now we come to the moment that should make every wrestling fan's blood boil, the actual firing itself. Because even in this final act of corporate cruelty, Triple H found a way to make it personal, petty, and absolutely devastating. The call came on a Friday afternoon, and the timing wasn't accidental. WWE deliberately chose Friday so that Liv Morgan would have the entire weekend to process the news without being able to immediately respond or seek support from colleagues who were busy with their own weekend obligations. Triple H didn't even have the decency to fire her face to face. Despite being the man who preaches about respect and doing business the right way, he delivered the career-ending news through a phone call. A phone call. This woman had given years of her life to WWE, had bled for the company, had represented them with class and professionalism in every appearance, and Triple H couldn't even look her in the eye when he destroyed her livelihood. But the content of that phone call, obtained through sources who were briefed on it immediately afterward, reveals the true depth of Triple H's betrayal. He didn't just fire her. He attempted to gaslight her into believing it was somehow her fault. "This is a business decision," Triple H reportedly told her. "We've evaluated your performance, and we don't feel you're meeting the standards we need for a performer at your level. We think it's best for both parties if we part ways immediately." Immediately. Not at the end of her contract. Not after a transition period. Immediately. Like she was some kind of security risk who needed to be escorted out of the building. And then came the most insulting part of all. Triple H offered her the opportunity to finish strong by doing a series of job losses to help put over other talent before her departure. He wanted her to spend her final weeks in WWE losing match after match, destroying her credibility and momentum before sending her out the door. When Liv Morgan, showing more backbone than Triple H ever will, refused this humiliating send-off and asked why she was really being fired, Triple H's mask finally slipped. According to the source who recounted this conversation, his tone turned cold and corporate. "Look, Liv, you were asking for more money than we're willing to pay. We've made our decision. We wish you the best in your future endeavors." There it is. The truth. Not performance issues. Not creative direction. Money. Triple H fired one of WWE's most popular champions because she had the audacity to ask to be paid what she was worth. The ripple effect. How this affects every WWE wrestler. If you think what happened to Liv Morgan is an isolated incident, you're living in a fantasy world. This firing isn't just about one wrestler, it's a message to every single person in that locker room about what happens when you get too big for your britches, when you start thinking you deserve main event money, when you believe WWE's promises about being a family. Already, sources within WWE are reporting that other wrestlers are reconsidering their contract negotiations. Mid-card performers who were planning to ask for raises are now wondering if they should just take whatever WWE offers. Upper-card talents are questioning whether their recent pushes are genuine investments or just set up for future budget cuts. In the women's division, it's in complete chaos. Liv Morgan's firing has sent shockwaves through the entire women's locker room because it proved that even being a champion, even being over with the fans, even delivering consistently strong performances means absolutely nothing if WWE decides you're asking for too much money. Multiple sources have confirmed that several female wrestlers have already reached out to their representatives to explore options outside WWE. They've seen what happened to Liv Morgan, and they're not willing to wait around to see if they're next on Triple H's chopping block. But here's what's really sick about this whole situation. WWE is counting on fan amnesia. They're betting that within a few months, you'll have forgotten about Liv Morgan. They'll push some new wrestler, give them a championship, and you'll cheer just as loudly as you did for Liv. They're treating wrestling fans like goldfish with 3-second memories. And based on wrestling history, they're probably right. How many times have we seen this exact same pattern? WWE builds up a wrestler, fans get invested, WWE destroys them for business reasons, fans get angry for a few weeks, and then everyone moves on to the next storyline. But this time should be different. This time, the betrayal is so obvious, so calculated.